Welcome to Between the Horns, presented to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. I'm Kirsten Watson alongside JB Long, Maurice Jones-Drew. It is week 4, but before we get ahead to the exciting matchup in Chicago against the Bears, we have to go back to week 3, the home opener, a huge win against the rivals 49ers, a comeback win. When you guys think about just that one, where does that win rank for you all when it comes to the regular season, a comeback win, and just the performance that this team had to put themselves in a better position to start the season? I'll start with you, JB.
I'm not trying to avoid the question, but can we acknowledge greatness in the building first?
Oh, dear.
She's joining us with a magic number at what?
2.
2? Oh, how about the summer of Shohei?
It's been crazy.
Oh, my goodness.
It's been crazy.
Are you still drying off from that Gatorade bath you got?
Did they get you wet?
Yeah, they got me
Do
good.
I need to go talk to someone about that?
I would say yes. However, it's just if we can clinch tonight and the Dodgers can, then it's going to happen again today. So don't even worry
You
about it.
handled it like the true professional
Make sure
that
you
are.
have your bonnet on. We can't get that pretty hair wet.
It's too late.
Oh,
It's
no.
Busy time of year, though, for you, and glad to
Yes.
have you back in the Rams environment, and you
Thank
picked
you.
the perfect moment. That one ranks pretty highly for me.
I'm jealous that I
highly,
wasn't
yeah.
there. I'll be honest. Very jealous.
I mean, I think you got to kind of separate it into 2 categories. Like what it means for this season, we don't know yet.
Right.
It depends whether or not you cash it in this week in Chicago, next week against the Packers, and on and on. But zooming out, bigger picture, it's nice not to have to deal with the regular season at SoFi nonsense anymore. I think as they continue to kind of grow their audience, their fan base, and get bragging rights, we previewed it on this show last week, right? Like the Escalator Gang and all those sorts of things. Like this is what rivalry football is all about. It's awesome. And next year when you play the 49ers, you don't have to answer to any of those questions.
No, I think you're exactly right. It was bigger. It was probably the biggest one for me.
Biggest regular season for you?
Yeah, just for on a personal note, being from the Bay Area, living up there. All week I heard from, I have my son's in high school, my other one does youth. All the coaches are Niners fans. Everyone's Niners fans. So I'm just chirping left and right. Now, I'm trying to hold my own. But they kind of start to wear you down after so long. And so to be able to go back home this week and everyone be quiet when I walk in. To go back home and my neighbor, to see his little Niner flag and, hey, how are you? Things going good? Hope your day's getting better, right? It just makes you feel good because I remember as a player, not being a fan too, and obviously working with the team and being around these guys, it's a lot more than that, right? Like people's days, especially like when they Levi South and all that, but that's just more on a personal note. But for a team perspective, I thought it was awesome. It was awesome for Jared Verse to get after Trent Williams, right? Like on a football aspect, you brought him in to be physical, and he was physical. He won that battle. To bring Alaric Jackson to come back and to handle Nick Bosa. Like those are monumental wins for this team because that's what you built this offseason for, is to be able to beat the Niners and then do it without your guys, right? And granted, they didn't have their guys either, but to do it with the guys you did it with makes this, to me, probably the biggest regular season win coming off of, not winning so many. I know last year you won the last one, but no one really played, right? But
I'm counting the last one too. 2-game regular season winning
I'll
streak.
take it. I'll take it for sure. But I'm just saying more for a psychological thing is their guys had to play your guys, and this game mattered for both teams.
I think that's actually a really perfect segue, though, because then also when you look at starting 0-2 is one thing, but to pick up a win, one at home against the Niners, to now sit at 1-2, how much confidence can that bring, especially considering you do have players who had to step up. There are a lot of guys who are down with injury. So how can a win like this really just kind of put you in a good spot when it comes to momentum and moving forward?
I think the most precious resource we have in all walks of life is time. And I think that win bought you the time you need to hang in this fight, to put yourself back on a track to play meaningful football this season and to get some of your key pieces the time they need to rejoin you, whether it's on the other side of the bye, somewhere in October, when you have a chance to really go play for something.
Yeah, you said it best. It allows, it's like the first step of having a good day. Then you have a good week. Then you have a good month, right? And so I think this win, to see the energy in the locker room, to hear Coach McVay go up and be like, oh, blank, what a time, right? It was just a different type of energy. I felt like you had a moral victory against Detroit. Oh, if we were healthy, we played Detroit, we had a chance. Then you had the debacle in Arizona. Then you come back and you find a way to win. Now it's about, can we stack these wins each week? And while we're stacking, all of a sudden Cooper comes out of a cast. All of a sudden Puka Nacua is working out on the sideline. Like all of a sudden,
there's Darius Williams, your starting corner.
yeah. Like all these guys are starting to like show back up, and it's like we've added, and we talked about this, JB, a lot, and Kirsten, you'd love this, but it's a blessing in disguise because right now, while guys are getting hurt, these other guys are getting reps. You're adding more depth to your roster of guys who are playing meaningful football, and when they come back, it's like, oh, Tutu Atwell's here. We got to find a role for him. Oh, this guy did this. Oh, this guy did that. And now we have depth and we can be a more versatile offense and defense going forward.
I was having a really hard time seeing the blessing. I was seeing most of the skies, though, down 2 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you and me both. I was like, I don't think I could use this line again. But sure enough, the football gods, they were like, hey, Tutu Atwell's down there somewhere. Just throw it up. And he comes down with it.
In part because you saw this. He was like Jon Snow there on NFL Network.
Oh.
Right? Okay, so I want to ask
him
you about
against
this.
the world.
Can you just take us inside the studio of knowing, like, you are the only analyst? There were 10 of you guys.
Yeah.
You're the only one to pick the Rams.
And you know what? That's how it is all the time. And I'm okay with that. Like I said, I'm going to stand with the Ramley. I've kind of told myself, you know, I'm the honorary CEO. I don't know who the CEO of the Ramley is, the organization of the fan base, but I'll be him for right now. And I'll stand to the forefront. You don't have to be there. I'll stand by myself as they all come at me. But when we win, just know I'm going to rise up like the phoenix from the ashes. And I'm going to shine bright and yell Rams all day. So it was fun. It's good.
Have you been back in the studio, and what was the reactions? Everyone, just when you walked in being like, I told you.
I went back right after the game.
Yep.
And one of the stage producers, a big Niner fan, was there. And I don't want to rub it in your face. You know, because they were all outside and they were all upset. Just gave him a nice wink and smiled.
Confident, not cocky.
Yeah.
Yes.
Border. I'm right there, though.
Border.
I'm right on the edge. The toe is off. Not the whole foot, but the toe is off.
I don't know if I've told you this yet, but the crossing guard on our way to school, his name's Q, is always wearing Niners gear. He's got like the keychain, the shirt, whatever. My 4-year-old's been giving it to him all week.
That's
all week.
But you see the wind that I'm talking about? Like, I
Yes.
needed that. I was down to my last leg. I'm trying to tell you, it's hard. It's hard out here when these Niner fans get on you, man. You can't let a fan base get you like the Niners had us for a while, because now people just start to rag on you a little bit. And I'm happy that our fans, our players, even John Johnson got on. I saw a podcast where he was talking trash. Like it gets at you if you got to find a way to get out of there, and they found a way, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's bigger than all of us, and
There's
we love
no
it.
question.
And it was a huge one. It was a huge win, and now it's kind of, but it does allow you to kind of take a step back, looking at the bigger picture. It's still only week 4 in the regular season. When you look at what the NFC West looks like at the moment, so the Seahawks are number 1, they're leading 3-0. Everyone else sits at 1 and 2 though. So what does this mean? Just if they can go to Chicago, pick up a big win on the road, what could this mean when it comes to the standings and even just the goals for a postseason run, potentially taking the division as well?
Well, I think you always want to set yourself up to be in a division run at the end of the year. And so even though it's week 4, you only get 17 opportunities, right? And that's the difference between football and every other sport. Most other sports, you get 82, 100, whatever it may be. You only get 17 of these opportunities, so each one is special. So winning this one at home gives you kind of a springboard to have some confidence to go into this week and prepare for a tough Chicago team. Like, offensively, they're finding their way a little bit. Defensively, this might be one of the toughest defenses we're going to see here. They do a great job of stopping the run. They're physical. They get turnovers. They're ball hawks on the back end. So you got to make sure you're precise in everything that you do. And if you're able to go in Chicago and get one, again, it's another step, another +1 in the confidence of we're doing things the right way, and we get to come back to work and be happy. People don't understand, when you lose a game, it's hard to come back to work. Like, it's like, yeah, you do it, but the energy is not the same. Like, you got to muster up like all the stuff that it takes you to go out there. When you come back after a win, it's like, what's the game plan this week? What are we going to do? How are we going to attack them this week? And so every time you win, it just becomes a kind of contagious of a contagious feeling throughout the building.
It's a weird thing to say about a division that has, 3 teams at 1 and 2? Do I get that right? But I think there's 4 playoff contenders in this division.
Yeah.
And if you are fortunate to earn another victory Monday, watching Monday Night Football is going to feel a little bit different, when they come back to work, because that's undefeated Seattle at Detroit, if I'm not mistaken, and
Yes.
you've still got both your games head-to-head against the Seahawks.
Yeah, so it's definitely this division's in anyone's hands as long as you decide to go for it and take it. When you look at just the bye week this year, it's week 6. It's the earliest it's been in the McVay area. In the McVay era. With that, is it coming at the perfect time though? Just considering what the next 2 weeks look like, you've got the Bears this week, the Packers at home for week 5, the bye week. Is it best case scenario, just considering the injuries and guys who could be coming back for week 7?
I hope that's the narrative we're spinning in a couple of weeks. And I've caught a lot of side eye this summer from MJD and just knowing what these first 5 games look like and being like, hey, the Rams can play really well, and be 1-4 or 2 or 3. Like, as long as they've got at least 2 wins at the bye. This has been my refrain. You're in this thing because you get a bye, you come back with 2 home games in 5 days, just like last year against the Raiders and Vikings, and you might get up to something. Now, I don't want to lower the bar for this group, but coming off their first win, if you can get one of these next 2 or both of these next 2, you're exactly where I had hoped they would be without knowing all the context of what they would be suffering from.
Yeah, JB's the logical one in this relationship. I'm the emotional one. I'm like, we should be 5-0. We're ready to go. Right, but I definitely understand when you have that bye week early. Two things can happen. One, you could be a healthy team. You get the bye week and you're rolling, and it hurts you. It's detrimental, right? Or it could be the way it is now, where guys are beat up, right, and you got guys out, and that bye week gives you a chance to get guys back. And if you can get guys back and build this roster the way it was supposed to be built on paper, and they perform like they've been performing, then you have something, right? And then you go into this after this bye week. If you're able to get 2 victories, all of a sudden, like last year after Green Bay, it was like after the bye week in Green Bay, it was like, like what's going on? And then they were able to roll off 1, 2, and then it just went down the way. And so you just want to try to catch momentum. So an early bye week can help you. It can hurt your momentum, or it can help you create momentum throughout the season.
All right, with 3 weeks down now, I think it's time we kind of do a little fun thing here. We're going to go around the horn, and we're going to talk about what we know about the 2024 Rams. Yes, it's early in the season, but I think coming off of a win against the Niners was very telling in a lot of things. So I'm going to start with you, MJD. What is one thing that you think you have learned about this team, where they're at right now?
The defensive line is serious. That's what I know. I know that they will get after the quarterback. They can stop the run, and Jared Verse is the leader of this defense, I feel. I say that because there were a couple plays in each game where he's pushed either the tackle or the tight end into the backfield in a run play, and as JB would say, almost had the running back for a tackle for loss, right? Like literally each week it's more and more plays like that, and he's talking, he's backing it up, and then what he did against Trent Williams, I mean, the play where Trent cramps up, and we were like, no, he cramped up because he had to work. He didn't think he had to work, and so the young defensive line and Jared Verse as advertised.
Read my mind.
Ooh, okay, what else you got?
Well, let me try this one on for size, and I want to hear from you in the comments section whether you think this has legs or not. The fearsome 2020 foursome.
Oh, I like it.
Because they've got young guys in the pass rush, and they're rushing with 4, and they're getting there. Now, I get it. The conversion rate has to pick up. Like, pressures matter, but they got to start turning them more into negative plays for the opposing offense. And they're going to get that chance. I really believe it this week against Chicago. But when you look at the young 4 they have up there, right? Verse on one edge, Young on the other. Kobe in the middle. Braden Fisk coming alive in that second half. If you look at position value, we all know what edge rushers are worth in this league. Defensive tackle, the Aaron Donald effect, they're starting to get paid too. Maybe the Rams, if they can keep this nucleus together, growing, thriving, not having to blitz and still impact the opposing pocket, maybe they've found that next like salary cap cheat code, right? Where they can build off of this with first and second year pass rushers that they've grown organically into. Like, I'm super excited about that. And I really like the challenge against Caleb this week because he's going to test you the same way that Brock Purdy and that Kyler Murray did.
Okay, so let me see if I get this right. Fearsome 2024.
Yeah, the fearsome foursome is like, what this Rams brand is all about.
But the 2020
foursome. So,
I like it. All right, let's see if it sticks.
I'll stay on defense for mine, okay? Which is rush and cover go together.
Oh.
And I'm just going to take an honest look in the mirror and say the secondary has a long way to go. A long way to go, and this is a big week for them in Chicago, don't you think? Whether Keenan Allen plays or not, like, yes, the pass rush can help them out in coverage by shortening the clock on these opposing quarterbacks, but you can't keep turning opposing receivers loose for 100-yard games and touchdowns.
Man, well, remember in the game, there was one where Brent Ayuk was running down the field by himself. No one even had him.
It was
right?
bad, but it could have been worse, is what you're saying.
It could have been much worse. I agree with you in that situation. I just think, again, health. Getting Darius Williams back will help a ton. It'll allow you to then put Kobe Durant in the slot, and then you can keep Quentin Lake at safety. You don't have to do as many moving parts. But that's the part of it, right? Like, you lose one guy, and then all of a sudden your third guy has to play 2, and then now your fourth guy has to play 3, and then, like, you're just moving guys around. I think when they get healthy, they'll start to pick up. But it also goes with the conversion rate of the D-line, right? Rush and cover. If you can start getting sacks, I can sit on more routes and be a little bit more aggressive.
How about on offense? What do you think you know about the 24 Rams on offense?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first and foremost, I'll say, Robitussin. That word right there is the most important word to us. My grandmother used to tell me when I was a kid that whenever you're sick, just to get, a little cough, here, get some Robitussin. Grandma, my bone is sticking out of my arm. I need help. A little
Between that
Robitussin.
and Vapor Max.
For a compound fracture?
Yeah. Just get some Robitussin to fix it. The running game is the Rams Robitussin.
Okay, so it's gonna fix everything.
It will fix all your problems, right? The offensive line issues. Granted, getting the Larg back helps out, but sticking with the running game when you're down 2 touchdowns and running the football and doing all those things opened up what in the second half? The play action pass. Allowed Tutu Atwell to get down the field, allowed lanes, allowed the protection to hold up. In that second half, there was a couple passes where there was no one within 3 yards of Matthew Stafford because they had to respect the running game. And so to me, being able to do that, being able to be physical in that aspect, Kyron running the way he ran, the tackles and tight ends and receivers blocking and the guys firing off the ball and pushing guys over pile, that allowed the pass protection to hold up where Matthew Stafford had time to make those throws down the field.
I'll echo that. There's not an NFC quarterback I would rather have for this year's team than Matthew Stafford.
no.
Period, point blank. Right?
That's it.
And it's not just because of his arm talent. It's because of his mind. It's
Yeah.
because of his willingness to check to run when Kyron is going like that. But did you see the play I highlighted this week that I wanted to show you, like some of those stretch plays?
Oh, my God. He almost pulled a hamstring trying to get there.
I mean, this guy is out there in his 16th season. I know that's not his preference.
No.
That's not how he wants to play. Like, if he could design his day, that's not what he wants to be doing, but he did it against the Niners because that's what his head coach and his offense wanted and needed, and did it pay off or what?
Man, those runs were huge on outside zone. And there was a couple of them where I think Kyron got it on his hip. Like, right here, not in the belly, on his hip. I
Because
was
Matthew's selling out. He's like
Yeah.
old Peyton Manning getting out there to
Yeah.
try and hand that football off.
I love it, though. Again, like I said, if you can do that, you're stretching the defense in ways that, especially that defense, in ways they've never been stretched before horizontally. And then you fake it. And now, like, where was Fred Warner? How many times did you call Fred Warner's name on Sunday?
Well, you said it. The fact that I noticed and felt Verse more than Bosa. If you had told me that before the game, I'd say, okay, the Rams, they're going to win this one. They're going to win this one.
And they did just that. When you guys think about, though, with gearing up for week 4, I think one of the biggest things coming out of this past week was there were no injuries.
Oh.
Like, that's huge right now. How important, though, is that when you are preparing for another tough week in this league, but knowing that you at least have some continuity that you get to build off of?
I think that was the one that made me rejoice. I think I started to dance when I heard that. Like, hey, no injuries. Because if you look at what the Niners are going through right now, they have all type of stuff going on after that game.
Bears, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are after these games. It's like to hear the Rams say no injuries. It's like, whew, okay. Like, we get the same 5 offensive linemen. We get the same receivers. We get the same defense. We get the same this. And they get to learn how to play with each other, right? So I know as a running back, when I had the same 5 linemen, they knew exactly how I wanted to run. I knew exactly how they were going to block it. We didn't have to talk, right? Because we've repped these plays so many times. And every week, again, we talk about confidence. Every week you get more confident in what you're doing. That's the most important thing. So to have no injuries, to be, they always talk about the hottest teams in December. The hottest teams are always the healthiest teams because they played together majority of the year to get going. So if you can do that and stay healthy, it's huge.
All right, now, week 4 coming up. Caleb Williams, quarterback, first number 1 overall draft pick this past year. It's going to be a tough one. What do you like about this matchup, and how do you have to find ways to limit him in this one?
I mean, the play doesn't begin until it breaks down when you're going against Caleb, right?
Yes.
And I like seeing them have to throw it 50-plus times against Indianapolis, but I'm also afraid of them throwing it 50-plus times against the Rams, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I agree and to disagree at the same time. But we'll go ahead. I'll explain.
Well, I have great respect for their skill group. I think I can't come up with another instance where a top quarterback has walked into a situation as favorable as Caleb has at his skill positions. Now, his offensive line is porous, and that's where I think the Rams can really dictate terms in this game. But I don't know. I feel like if he throws it 50 times, it's going to mean good things for the Rams. I feel like he's going to give you a chance to go out and make an impact play on defense. And it especially means that they're probably not leaning on you with their running game, which I think there's still the upside potential for them to be impactful with the backs that they have.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter out of Chicago about not running the football. They need to run it more. So expect them to come in. Very similar like Arizona was like, we got to get Marvin going. Well, we need to cover Marvin then with 3 people then if they got to get him going. So understand we're going to have to load the box because they're going to try to run the ball. And if they get success early, they're going to stick with it. But the challenge for me this week, and what I said I somewhat disagreed was, it's time for you to get to the quarterback. You have more than opportunity to get to the play's going to break down. It always does with Caleb. That's where he's at his best. But it's time for you to not miss the tackle like you did on Brock Purdy, or not miss the sack like you did on Kyler Murray, or you got to convert this week, right? It's been 3 weeks of us not converting. It's time to convert these, especially against these mobile quarterbacks. You convert on a couple of those sacks, and they start to come in bunches. Then all of a sudden you have confidence, right? And again, I think the biggest thing, and I'm going to keep using the word confidence, is when you play in the league and you're young, you gain confidence by having success. The Brock Purdy play that lasted like 45 seconds. You were going, I thought I was going to give you some water. You were out of breath because he was just scrambling all around.
In fairness, the Rams dropped 8.
No question, as you should. But you had 2 times to get him, right? There was 2 times to get him. Braden Fisk had him early. You didn't get him. And then I want to say Jared Verse was coming back. He probably could have went around the tackle or around the O-line instead of going underneath, but you had a chance to get him. In those situations, if you were able to get him down, you'd be more confident. Like, okay, go ahead and scramble around. Well, this is something that we have to use because we do have Kyler Murray in our division, right? That you want to be able to, you do have Brock Purdy that moves around as well. If you can convert some of those into sacks, confidence starts to go up. You talked about the O-line. Especially the left tackle is, very similar to what we had in week 1 and 2.
Both tackles questionable so far this week in practice.
So if you can find a way to get to Caleb and get him down, the confidence starts to rise, and then you want him to throw the ball 50 times because now, you're not tired when you're getting sacks. It's like, I can get hey, let me get another one. Like, come on, 3rd down, let me get back out there, right? And so I think again, it's just the confidence of making play after play after play will definitely rise this week if they get an opportunity.
With kind of just going back, I know we're talking about the confidence on our end, but just considering what Caleb Williams was able to do in week 3, having over 350 passing yards, being able to connect with Rome Odunze, when you think about just kind of their dynamic that they're building over there, how dangerous could that be for those two rookie players, 2 top draft picks who could have a very bright future in this space? What are you seeing from that, the taste that we've gotten from that kind of
There's a
matchup
ton
there?
of latent potential there, and I hope what we didn't see last week is the start of something special between those 2. You get Keenan Allen back in the mix, like another week on time, on task. They can be a problem, but I still hope that the version of the Bears we're seeing is a group that's turning it over more than they're scoring touchdowns.
Well, and I also want to say this. Remember, the Colts should have been up like 2 touchdowns at one point, but they get down there in the red zone or the 5-yard line, and he throws that crazy pick, right? So not turning the ball over offensively puts more pressure on the Chicago Bears. Forcing them to have to drive the length of the field against your defense puts more pressure on them. When they get some energy and some turnovers, which the defense causes, it allows them the more opportunity. Now, yes, they're going to be really good. Like, you can just see it already. They have something going on. He looks for him when he scrambles. He doesn't look for DJ Moore. He looks for Odunze. So, yeah, that's going to be scary. But we got to make sure that it's scary after this week, right? And make sure when you do scramble, when you start to see him scramble around, you have to plaster and stick with your guy.
That's right.
And let him go.
It's not a comfortable test for week 4, but I think it's exactly the one the Rams need in this moment, right?
Yeah.
For all the things you described. And also, I think you said already, maybe the best defense they faced this year.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I was not expecting this to be as much of a defense-forward Bears group as they have been through the first month of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they present different challenges. Jalen Johnson is a very good, sneaky corner. And the way that they handled Houston's offense was insane to see how the Bears beat them up, right? And so I think this is a great test, a great challenge for Sean and this offense of how we're going to attack them, right? How we're going to put them in position. Have they seen guys like we have, right? On top of that, and this may be an issue or not, but if it's windy, it's going to be a problem. It's a different type of – Chicago is a different place. And we've only been there when it's cold. which is, I'm happy we get to go now and not have to be cold. But when it's windy, it could be an issue.
Can I sell you on something, though? Is there a school of thought where, paradoxically, the Rams are actually a harder team to prepare for this week than they were a week ago, or even when they had Cooper Kupp?
Oh, yeah.
Now you got to worry about Tutu Atwell running past you. Now you got to worry about Hunter Long being in there at the point of attack in a 2 tight end set. What are they expecting from the Rams that's a little bit more multiple, if not complex?
Well, you have Parkinson, too. Kobe Parkinson, who had a couple of big catches, and then he had the big drop, right? If he catches that ball, that's a first down. There's more. What happens when you lose your stars, there's not guys you can key on, right? I remember this. I don't know if they still do it, but they used to put game breakers up at the beginning of the week. These are the guys that we have to stop in order to win, right? Normally that'd be Puka Nacua this year, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Kyron Williams. Well, now it's just Kyron on there and Matthew Stafford. You don't know about the other positions, which means you can't key, and there's not a guy to key on to say, we want to run this coverage to stop this guy. It's just, we got to run this coverage, and we got to be in these spots, right? And so I think that puts a lot of pressure on the defense not to be able to key on one guy in the passing game to say, okay, Cooper Kupp, we know he runs these routes. This is what we want to stop. Well, no, it's not like that anymore. You have a bunch of guys who can run different routes that can make different plays.
When we look ahead now, and I know that we've kind of dived in through just different parts, and we've kind of hit on some keys to victory, but if you had to really kind of key in on something specific when it comes to this matchup, the Rams and the Bears in Chicago, we've talked about it, best case scenario, it's Chicago in September, not Chicago in December. Wind could be a factor, but I think hopefully weather should be pretty good just up front. What would you say is one of the biggest things? I'll start with you, JB, just kind of going into this one that the Rams are going to have to focus in on and do.
Well, I know it's top of mind for the fan base, and that is playing with a lead for once.
Yeah.
Like, the Rams have fallen behind by 2 touchdowns in all 3 games so far, and in that sense, they're very fortunate to be 1-2. Bears are in the same boat. I think the Bears have led for less than 8 minutes combined this season. So there hasn't been a team in the history of football that hasn't wanted to start fast, but I think the Rams, especially in these circumstances, sure would be nice to go play for a lead for the first time this season.
I think winning the turnover battle is going to be huge. I know that's always like the easiest one to do, but you're going to have opportunities defensively to turn the ball over. And that's going to be important. And then on the other side of it, they do a great job of turning the ball over, so you got to make sure you protect the football and don't throw interceptions and don't do those things because, again, you're playing a rookie quarterback, and they exposed him a lot last week with 50 passes plus pass. That's a lot of exposure to a quarterback. So if you can find a way to get him back in that number again, you have what you want.
Yeah, they've got the lowest passer rating allowed this season, I think, because of all those takeaways in their secondary. And I'm just going to try and speak this into existence here on Between the Horns. The Rams are due for a non-offensive touchdown.
Oh.
They're overdue, and now that special teams has turned a corner, I really believe that this can be the week, if not on teams, maybe with a defensive touchdown. It's been since Christmas against the Broncos a couple years ago, since they've gotten a touchdown anywhere except their offense, so I'm hoping this is the week.
Stafford is 12-9 all time against the Bears. Is there something going into a matchup where you're like, I got this? I mean, he's always got it, I should say that, but just knowing how good you are against a specific team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone in Chicago's happy to see Matthew Stafford at Soldier Field because even when he was playing with sub-500 Lions teams, he's come in there and found a way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, I don't know if they talked about what hotel you used to stay in and all that stuff, but I think when you have a familiarity with the city and the hotel and the people, like when we used to go to Indy every year, I'd be like, we're at the Marriott right here, bro. Like, I know what room I'm going to be in. I know how I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm good. Yeah. Here goes $180. You know what's coming, right? Like, but then if we were to go to New England, I don't feel the best. This is not the Marriott that I'm used to. Maybe we staying at a boutique hotel. Food maybe not be the same. So I think when you play those teams in your division, you're comfortable because you go there every year.
Often,
so hopefully it is the same hotel, same food, same people, same place, same locker room. You go out there and make plays.
And hopefully same protection, because I just think we got a glimpse in week 3 of what his partnership with McVay can mean in year 4, right?
Yeah.
The first 2 weeks we were robbed of that because there were just turnstiles up front and he was under extreme duress. when you can get him to 3 Mississippi,
Oh,
I just think he's at a place right now where he has threaded the needle perfectly between being aggressive, being lethal, but also being protective of the possession. And this is a game where if he checks to the right things, if he makes the right decisions, and if you can keep him upright, I believe good things are going to happen.
you have to give a shout out to Bo Limmer and Logan Bruss for stepping in,
No doubt.
and doing an awesome job against Hargraves and all like
And even Dedich coming off the bench for a couple of key snaps.
Like that, I was so nervous, and credit to the staff on the developing Logan Bruss from what he was when he first got here to where he is now, where he can step in and start and play a whole game. That is huge. The development the Rams have done with, like you said, their guys developing pass rushers, but O linemen, DBs, linebackers. Like, let's remember, these aren't guys that normally play all the time that they played with. These are guys that are more special teams guys or reserve role guys that stepped in and had a huge role in that game.
This is where the Rams wanted to get to, right? With Matthew Stafford. Circumstances don't have to be perfect for him. He can elevate the other 10 around him. He just has to know who those 10 are going to be, right? Like you saw in that second half, he can bring out the best in Tutu. He can bring out the best in Jordan Whittington and DeMarcus Robinson. And, you know, he can deal with Logan Bruss and AJ protecting his. He just needs to know here on Thursday that that's how it's going to be this weekend, because that's what every quarterback needs, right?
Yeah. I mean, the Tyler Johnson, when he doesn't go up the field and he runs over to him, he's like, hey, I need you to do this. Something. And then as he walking off, he was like, dap me up.
Yeah.
You good, right? That's leadership, because if you think about it, most quarterbacks would be like, what are you doing? Why didn't you do this? Woo. He's like, hey, we're good. Don't worry about it. And that was a big play early in the game, that if he's able to scramble and make that connection, that drive keeps going. And so, to me, you talked about it, the leadership and then the ability to develop the young guys to play is huge.
You know, he's the comeback king for a reason, right? Whether it's game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks. I just hope for the Rams' sake that this isn't one of those weeks where he's got to go get it in the fourth quarter. If need be, he's your guy. I just hope this is the week that the Rams play 4 quarters of complimentary football and he can lean on the Chicago defense with his running game and kind of shorten the game and get out of there with a win, as opposed to needing to have a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah, I think, well, that is going to be the biggest thing. The hope is they can start faster, get things going, not play from behind. And they have a leader in Matthew Stafford who has been nothing but lights out. Go ahead.
Important question for you
Yes.
as our guest host, because this has come up and I think we need your opinion on this.
Okay.
Does this really look like a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup to you? Because our
1000%,
audience,
yes,
our
I've
audience
seen
is pretty sure that's
It is.
like
well, it's
a big
the
piece
ridges.
of Halloween candy.
It's the ridges on the side.
Okay.
But they're delicious. So I think it's a perfect coffee table.
I think we all need an NIL deal.
No
Ooh,
question.
partnership. Here we go.
But I need that in writing, not a verbal
This
agreement.
this Halloween season.
I need it in writing, not a verbal agreement.
Isn't
I
that
love
wild?
it. I love it. It's getting spooky in here. All right. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of Between the Horns, presented to you by our Southern California Toyota dealers. It's going to be a fun one, coming off of what it was an electric performance against the Niners. And hopefully they can carry that momentum into the Chicago Bears. So from Kirsten Watson, JB Long, Maurice Jones-Drew, we thank you for joining and watching today.
And go clinch tonight.
Whew, fingers crossed. I hope so.
I'm a Dodgers fan now.